In this video, I'm going to show you how to do blade adjustments on the SawStop CTS. So let's get into it. This is the SawStop CTS, the smallest of all the SawStop saws. I had it for about a year. Been a great performer. I really like using it. It's been really awesome. But I think it's a little bit out of alignment, so let's get into checking it. Now, before we begin, we want to make sure that the power switch is off. The lights are off as well, and make sure that your power cable is not connected to power. This is really just to make sure that you don't get injured or electrocuted while working on the saw. First things first, we want to make sure that our angle is fully vertical, fully 90. Make sure you get your handle all the way set over, and then we want to raise the blade. Right now I've got the Freud thin kerf ripping blade in here, and we want to make sure that it's 90 degrees. So we're going to use our little gauge here, put it on, and see what it says. 89.9, we could use a little bit more. So we're going to have to do a little bit of adjustment first. In order to adjust the angle of the blade, we need to loosen these two bolts here using a 4mm Allen key. So we just kind of get in there, loosen that one, loosen that, and now we can use this bolt to adjust it 2 degrees in either direction. And then we just kind of dial it in, and right there. So now that that's done, lock it back in place. And if you want to adjust the actual cursor, we can just take our Phillips head screwdriver, get in there, loosen it up, and drop it right in. And now we're good to go. With the 90 being set, it's time for us to check the square of the blade to the miter track. And it's really important that these are all in line because you don't want any kind of variations and you want to get precise cuts, and this is really a big part of it. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to take our combination square, and this is really one of the easiest ways to do it. This is a 12-inch combination square from Empire. You get this at pretty much any hardware store, Home Depot or whatever, and they're perfectly fine. And what you want to do is make sure that your square is square. So be sure to check it, and once your square is square, a square is square. You don't have to spend a lot of money on fancier tools. This will work fine. What we're going to do is we're going to put this in the miter gauge slot, and you want this reference face here to be pressed up against this side of the miter track that's closest to your blade. You can do this from either side. And now we're going to loosen this and push it all the way up until it impacts the tooth. Just right on the edge of the tooth here. And the tooth that I've chosen, I'm going to actually mark with a marker so that at least I know the reference point. And it's just barely skimming on it. You can just hear it. Then we're going to lock in our square, and now we're going to push it forward. I'm going to bring this tooth that we've marked here all the way forward. That way we're using the same tooth on both ends. And we're going to see now, you can see here, it's not just gliding against it, the tooth is actually catching on the square, which means that this blade is actually slightly towed in this way. And what we need to do is we actually need to straighten it out so that it's smooth on this side, because what we're having is that now we've got a slight angle on the blade, which means that all of our cuts are going to be slightly off, which if we're just talking one cut, perhaps not a big deal. But as you make multiple cuts on your project, it's compounding the error. So this little teeny tiny microscopic little variation suddenly becomes this huge thing, and everything is off and you're really in trouble. Now with the SawStop CTS, the way to get into making this adjustment for the blade is to actually get under here and access all of the internals. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off our fence. And there are 2 screws here we need to remove. These can be removed using a Phillips head screwdriver, or just come in with your driver. Now, just so you don't lose your parts, make sure you put them in a little magnetic cup. Now we're going to rotate this back around to the back of the CTS where we have our little tool storage. Take that off. And now here we have 3 more screws that we need to remove. And this will release the saw housing. What we're going to do is we're going to take this and rotate. That'll give us a lot of working room for changing the housing. Pulling the housing out now down. Inside here's a 5mm hex screw. This is actually we're going to be adjusting in order to toe in and toe out the blade. Return the blade to the 90-degree position. Inside the motor housing is this screw. 5mm hex into that, and now we can just twist it and get our angle to make sure that it's correct. Just barely kissing the edge of the square. I think that's going to be just right. Now the next thing we want to do is make sure that the fence that we're going to be using for ripping cuts is then parallel to the actual miter slots. So how we're going to do that is we're going to have these little lock nuts or whatever they call on the rail. We're going to put our fence back on here, make sure that they're properly secured there, lock it down, and then move the fence to the actual miter track. And this part is relatively simple because we're just going to use visual and tactile references to make sure that everything is square. Now you can use a straight edge or something like that for us, but it's not really necessary because our sense of touch is really, really great and you'll know if it's off or not. Here we're just going to take our fence, pull it close to the edge, and make sure that it's parallel, or that basically it's all in line. And you could just run your fingers and you can feel, is it off? Does this come out slightly more than back here? Like this feels very flush. This may be a little bit reduced, like so the track may be slightly prouder here than here. Is that necessarily a big problem? No, because that means it's opening up slightly, so you're actually moving away from pinching your board. So if it's just like 1/1000th off, not a big deal. So that's really good. Now we're going to check our next set of nuts and screws. Put that here, bring that back up, and then again we're going to feel that, oh, that's actually, wow, that's even better. And then now let's go to the other side. And on this side we're going to just do the same thing. Put the fence on the pegs, lock it down, move it up here, and now we're going to make sure by feel that it's square. And yeah, that feels great. Everything looks good. Now, if you do need to make adjustments, you just kind of unlock the screws using the 4mm wrench, and then you can move it slightly. And what you want to do is that if you need to adjust it, leave the fence on there, then all you have to do is just loosen it slightly. And then you can feel the difference and just move it to where you need to do. Like that's good. And then once you get it set, just snug it down and you're good to go. So that's how to do the blade adjustments on the SawStop CTS. I hope this helps. I hope you enjoyed it. Please consider subscribing. Otherwise, see you next time. Right now I've got the Freud thin line. Right now I've got the Freud thin curve with our 90. I hope that still says 90.